Just a correction, it's not Vasnik, it's Manglik. That's all right, ये अक्सर होता है. बहुत दिनों से मेरा मन था यहाँ पर चंद शब्द या चंद लफ्ज़ कहने का और मौका नहीं हो रहा था. तो आज मैंने गुजारिश करी कि देर बहुत हो चली है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद अगर मौका मिल जाए तो मैं 5-7 मिनट लूँगा. बहुत लंबी शाम हो चुकी है. एंड आई डोंट नो, आई थॉट आई वुड स्पीक इन सॉलिडारिटी. द प्रॉब्लम है, जैसे मुखिया साहब ने कहा था कि जब JNU आपकी रग रग में बसा हो, क्योंकि कई साल पहले मैं यहाँ पर छात्र था, तो फिर यू फील योर स्पीकिंग टू योरसेल्फ. It's not about speaking in solidarity with something that is outside of you. It is just inside you. It's a part of you. And therefore, I do want to say something about what I think this agitation has actually meant. I want to begin by quoting from memory a speech that became a classic speech from the 1960s. And this was a speech not given by Kanhaiya Kumar, but it was given by a man called Mario Savio, who had actually never spoken in his life before. And in 1964, as part of the free speech movement, he gets up and he makes this speech, which then becomes popular once the 1968 movements take off. And what does he say? He says, there is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious. There is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you cannot take part. That you cannot even tacitly take part, and you've got to put your body upon the gears, you've got to put your body upon the wheels, you've got to put your body upon the levers, upon the entire apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to tell those who run the machine, and you've got to tell those who run the machine that the machine will not be allowed to run as long as you are not set free. I quote this particular speech because जब मैंने कन्हैया की स्पीच सुनी उस रात 2-3 रात पहले, तो उसके बाद जो मुझको एहसास हुआ और सुनते वक्त जिस सफाई से इन्होंने अपनी बातें रखी हैं, जिस पैशन से इन्होंने अपनी बातें रखी हैं और जो माहौल इन्होंने अपनी बात रखने के दौरान क्रिएट किया है, मुझको लफ्ज नहीं आ रहे थे कि मैं हाउ डू आई डिस्क्राइब हाउ आई फेल्ट एंड व्हाई आई फेल्ट दैट स्पीच वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड आई थॉट that the one way I could pay tribute to that speech which he made on the night of Thursday evening was by thinking of and quoting from a speech that also became a classic speech of a whole decade of the 1960s. I think what Kanhaiya did that day was quite iconic as far as what he was saying and the way in which he said it. But I am, वो रही बात, उसकी अहमियत अपनी जगह पर है. मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि इसके पहले जो पिछले 3.5-4 हफ्तों से JNU के अंदर जो छात्रों ने, शिक्षकों ने मिलकर एक आंदोलन खड़ा किया है, मैं उसकी अहमियत पर 2-4 लफ्ज कहना चाहता हूं. क्योंकि वाकई आपको पता ही होगा, क्योंकि आपके पास सॉलिडारिटी मैसेज यहां से वहां से आए हैं, लेकिन दूर दराज कहां बैठे हुए लोगों को, कई लोगों को ऐसा लगा है जो मैसेज ना भी दे सके हो, जैसे वीराने में चुपके से बाहर आ जाए, सहराओं में चले हौले से बादे नसीम, जैसे बीमार को बेवजह करार आ जाए. ऐसा कुछ एहसास हुआ. मैं अक्सर सोच रहा था हाउ डू आई बयां कैसे करूं कि जो हो रहा था यहाँ पर उससे कई हम लोग को कैसा लग क्या रहा था. It also reminded me of slogans of songs that have been sung by people in struggles. No struggle can happen without slogans. No struggle can happen without song. No struggle can happen without speeches. No struggle can happen without conversation. In fact, one of the abiding images of all those who participated in the struggles of 1968, if you go back and read some of the memoirs, what is it that people remember? They don't remember the issues that were raised all the time, but what they do remember is that in societies and on the streets and in the metro, in the university, at homes, people who never spoke to each other were actually talking to each other. The abiding memory is of conversation, not the attempt. It is of speech, it is of words. And this is why I want to also say that I think something remarkable has happened in the last 3.5 weeks. And it has happened very slowly. Because just come to think about it. एक मौका था 9 फरवरी के एकदम बाद जबकि ऐसा लगा, और ना सिर्फ आपको लेकिन जो लोग बाहर बैठे थे, जिनको परवाह है यूनिवर्सिटीज की, जिनको परवाह है दिमागों की, जिनको जो मानते हैं जैसे कि रोहित वेमुला मानते थे कि जो इंसान जो है वो सोने की धूल का बिनी हुई शानदार चीज है, ये सारे के सारे लोग जिनको यूनिवर्सिटीज और दिमाग और ये चीज अहमियत रखती है, जब ये हुआ 9 फरवरी के बाद और जिस प्रकार का जेएनयू के ऊपर, छात्रों के ऊपर, शिक्षकों के ऊपर, उसके पूरे इतिहास के ऊपर जो प्रहार होता है शासन के द्वारा, उसके बाद ऐसा वाकई ऐसा महसूस हो रहा था, डर तो लग ही रहा था, लेकिन वाकई ऐसा महसूस हो रहा था जैसे कि पैरों तले जमीन खिंच गई हो। वाकई ऐसा महसूस हो रहा था, वी वर ऑल पर्टिकुलरली यू वर रियली डाउन ऑन द ग्राउंड, you were down on the ground with your backs up against the wall, and then you have fought back. And how you have not fought back with stones and sticks, you have not fought back with brickbats, you have not fought back with abuses like anti-national or anti-patriotic, you have not fought back by degrading language, you have not fought back by degrading and dehumanizing language, you have fought back by using the power and all the beauty of words. And I think that's very, very important. Because as Neruda says in his memoirs, everything ultimately exists in the word. And you have actually used the word. You have used evocative images. You have used cartoons. You have used song. You have used slogans. And in that process, in the last 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks, I think you have begun to change the public discourse regarding students, regarding JNU, and regarding a number of other things. And this, I think, is no mean achievement. Because there are those who continue to dehumanize, to brutalize, to bloody that which makes us human. That which makes us human is the mind and speech and words. And until last night, they are asking for a ton of Kanyakumar. It's blood that they are asking for. It's blood which is being asked for. And I just want to emphasize that hats off and salute to all the students and to all the teachers who in a moment of crisis with their backs up against the wall have actually fought back and fought back. How? And they fought back with words. This is no mean achievement. You have used, I'll take another 2 or 3 minutes, I'll stop. You have used all the power of reason and passion at your command. You have dipped into the resources of the republic of ideas and imagination. A republic of ideas and imagination which is much, much bigger, much more beautiful than any kind of narrow identities. That is the resource you've dipped into. And by dipping into that and using the power of reason, using the power of passion, using the power of words and speech at your command, you have actually been able to, number one, begin to rip through the veil, all the veil of nationalism, in the name of nationalism, in the name of patriotism. You have ripped through that veil and begun to show up the lies, begun to show up the brutality, begun to show up the authoritarianism, begun to show up the illegality which lies at the heart of this and any fascist project. You have also allowed, number two, through whatever you have done, whatever you might have said or not said about slogans, I think what you've done is, you have also allowed people across the globe, of course in Delhi University and other universities in the country, but across the globe, to begin to think seriously about the meaning of slogans. That slogans are not simply created like this. Slogans, precisely because of their nature, the ability to be able to say something big in 1 short or 2 short sentences, slogans also have to be hyperbolic. You have been able to excite a discussion in this country that if we are talking about slogans as being hyperbolic, it would be asinine completely to begin to take slogans totally literally. Slogans were never meant to be taken literally. But simultaneously, I think what you've also done is, whatever your opinions about slogans and which slogans people agree with or people don't, I think what has happened is that across the globe, people have also begun to talk that look, slogans are slogans, they are words, and we don't have to agree with every slogan that is raised. But the way we deal with that slogan, it cannot be through sedition, It cannot be by bringing in the police, by bringing in the army, by talking of tanks on a campus. Slogans, I don't agree with so many slogans. इतने स्लोगन दिए जाते हैं दुनिया भर की जगहों पर, उनके साथ सहमति नहीं होती है, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि जब हम खिलाफत करते हैं किसी स्लोगन की कि उसका नतीजा ये हो कि हम कहें कि सेडिशन कर दो या आतंक कर दो या एक प्रकार से रिप्रेशन कर दो, दमन करो. So I think the whole question of the slogan, the meaning of slogans and how we deal with slogans which we don't agree with. आप मुझसे पूछे तो मैं कहूंगा कोई भी नारा, मैं तो जेएनयू में ये नहीं सीखा, कोई भी नारा जो कहता है कि फला फला की बर्बादी, उसकी बर्बादी, इसकी बर्बादी, मुझको उससे परेशानी है. लेकिन सवाल ये नहीं है, मुझको परेशानी इस वजह से नहीं है कि मैं राष्ट्रवादी हूं या देशभक्त हूं या देशप्रेमी हूं. परेशानी ये है कि किसी की बर्बादी नहीं चाहते. ये तो कन्हैया ने कितनी बार अपनी स्पीचेस में कहा है, किसी की बर्बादी नहीं चाहते. जो राजनीतिक परंपरा या पद्धति में हम बड़े हुए पले यहाँ पर जेएनयू में, वहां पर तो ये था कि पूरी दुनिया, I mean all belongs to all. We have to find a way in which all of us can actually share the whole world as equals. Okay, as something which is beautiful as equals. किसी की बर्बादी नहीं चाहिए. But my simple point is that apart from everything else, what this has done is to encourage a debate not only about the meaning of slogans but about how we deal with slogans. We can deal with slogans we don't agree with democratically. We do not have to deal with slogans we disagree with in an authoritarian way. But apart from that, what you've also been able to do, as has been said in all these discussions on nationalism, you've actually been able to open in these last 3.5 weeks or so a critical debate about what it means to be patriotic, what does nation, nationalism, etc. mean, how they're not something which is natural, and precisely because they're not natural and made by human beings in certain historical circumstances, they can also be changed. I think this debate which has been happening on the question of nation and nationalism, you have not simply taken it lying down and accepted the version being passed on to you. You've actually been able to take this discussion forward. And I think the debate and discussion needs to be continued on a much wider scale, as Teesta herself was saying. How do we take this debate from within JNU to outside? Already it is being taken outside. But I think it needs to be taken outside much more actively as well and much more intelligently. Number four, what you've also been able to do, it's a big, huge shot on the arm for all those people who've been trying to argue that the sedition law has absolutely no place in a democratic society. Number five, I think a debate on the nature of the university. You've actually been able to force people to begin to think and reaffirm what does it mean? What does a university mean? And what are we at university for? And the whole question, for example, that when we are at a university, what are we meant to be doing? I mean, a university, by the very word of it, it means एक ऐसी जगह जहां पर पूरा ब्रह्मांड ला सके. हम शिक्षक हैं, हम छात्र हैं, हमारा फर्ज ये बनता है कि हम पूरे ब्रह्मांड की किसी भी बात पर बेहिचक, बेखौफ बातचीत कर सके. So you bring the universe into the classroom. You bring the universe into our minds. You bring the universe into the imagination. And not only do you bring the universe, but you think critically about the universe. How do we begin to think critically about everything under the sun? Be it family, be it nation, be it patriotism, be it religion. The university is not a place for worship. The university is not a place जहां पर आप भक्ति करते हैं. आपको पूरा अधिकार है भक्त होने का. लेकिन जब आप यूनिवर्सिटी में आते हैं तो आप ये मान के चलें कि यूनिवर्सिटी में जब कोई भी आता है शिक्षक बनकर या छात्र बनकर, जब हम यूनिवर्सिटी में आते हैं, then we have to be able to have the courage and the gumption to be able to put our worship and bhakti on the side and be willing to talk critically about everything that we take for granted, about everything that society teaches us as being true and correct and right. And then to have the training to be able to arrive at our own independent decisions. That is the meaning of becoming adults, and that is the function a university must perform. Connected to this, I think what has happened, what you've done is also to be able to, on this basis, make the argument that the reason why JNU is under attack is not because of this slogan or that slogan. You've been able to make the argument that the reason why JNU is under attack is because if there is one university in the country, since the time of its founding, in the late 60s and early 70s, which has been doing that which any university should be doing, it is JNU. And that is the reason why JNU is under attack. It is a university which does not take anything for granted. It is not a university which is giving you घुट्टी. मुझको जो JNU की याद है और जिस वजह से मैं रोमेला का या मुखिया साहब का या पनिकर साहब का या बिपिन साहब का की इज्जत करता हूँ, वो इस वजह से नहीं है कि उन्होंने हमको कोई घुट्टी पिलाई, हमको एक प्रकार की विचारधारा दी. हमको इज्जत इस वजह से करते हैं क्योंकि पहली मर्तबा हम शिक्षा का अर्थ क्या होता है, उसका मकसद क्या होता है, वो हम समझे. क्योंकि जब उनके साथ बातचीत होती थी तो ये कहा जाता था कि तुम हमारी सुनो, तुम उसकी सुनो, तुम ये पढ़ो, तुम वो पढ़ो, तुम लाइब्रेरी में जाओ, तुम आंदोलन करो, तुम बहस करो, मुबाहिसा करो और उसके जरिए पेड़ के नीचे बैठो, रम के ग्लास पियो, लेकिन उसके बाद सोचो, समझो, अपने इंडिपेंडेंट निष्कर्ष पर पहुंचो. Critical thought. They taught us, and JNU taught me for the first time in my life, that the meaning of being critical, of using the mind that Rohit Vebela is talking about. That a man or a person is not just a thing. A man or a person cannot be reduced to his or her tatkalik pehchan. That we are all minds, and we are young. We are minds, whether we are old or whether we are young. And we have to be able to use those minds. And that is what JNU taught me. शिक्षा का अर्थ जो था वो हमको यहाँ पर मिला. कोई विचारधारा नहीं मिली कि वाम पंथ है और ये पंथ है. It was about being able to use one's own mind critically, and that I can assure you has been a completely liberating experience. I myself fell out with Professor Bipin Chandra, and I regret the fact that in 1983, and I regret the fact that I never really could talk to him about that time. We became friends later again, but I just want to emphasize that this is what JNU meant. I will give you one example. I don't know whether things are the same now, but what would happen was that there were times when क्योंकि वो 3-4 घंटे कोई क्लास चले, उसके बाद जब क्लास खत्म होती थी तो मन पूरा इतना अशांत हो जाता था अक्सर. उसके बाद बहस होती थी, पढ़ाई होती थी, मुबाहिसा होता था, और उसके बाद फिर भी रम पीने के बावजूद जब नींद नहीं आती थी तो सुबह के 2 बजे उनके घर पर जाकर उनके किवाड़ पर दस्तक करते थे और कहते थे कि बिपिन साहब, आपने जो आज पढ़ाया और आप ये कहते रहते हैं कि मन बेचैन हो, कभी भी आओ बात करो, तो हमारी नींद हराम आपने की है, हम आपकी नींद हराम करें. और सुबह के 6 बजे तक फिर बातचीत चलती थी, सुबह हो जाती थी. I'm just trying to emphasize and belabor a point that the JNU meant something. It was the only university. I'm not saying it's the only university, but I know that if there is one university that has been doing what it is meant to do, then it has been JNU, and that is the reason why it is under attack. And finally, I think once again what you've been able to do is to say, and Kanhaiya said it also right in the beginning, that this is very good that we have to have a debate on nation, nationalism, patriotism, etc. All this must carry on. At the same time, I don't think anybody here is in any doubt that this attack which is happening on JNU is happening because JNU is of a particular kind, number one. And by attacking JNU, actually the real target is the constitution and democracy. And I think, and this is something that Kanhaiya has been saying repeatedly, and he said in the beginning just now. And we have to be conscious that in fighting for JNU, we are not only fighting for JNU, no matter how valuable JNU is, and no matter how valuable JNU has been. We are simultaneously fighting for the constitution and for the preservation and deepening and strengthening of democratic rights in this country. It's only with that. They're important enough in themselves, but if we are not able to secure the freedoms guaranteed and the rights guaranteed in our constitution, then all the struggles for azadi that all of you have been talking about, that Kanhaiya spoke about so lucidly, so eloquently, in his speech on Thursday night, all those struggles become that much more difficult. So in order to be able to make this country a better place to live in for all its citizens, in order to be able to make our own lives much more meaningful, okay, we have to somehow find a way of maintaining, I would not say ekta. I would say we have to find a way of continuing कि डाले हाथों में हाथ चलेंगे साथ साथ, because ekta is a problematic slogan. Ekta is something that also goes very easily into the fascist chest. I think what we have to be able to say कि यहाँ समानता नहीं, हम समता मांगते हैं, और समता के लड़ने के लिए जो राजनीतिक ढांचा है लोकतंत्र का, उसको सलामत रखना, उसको मजबूत करना बहुत जरूरी है, ताकि ये सारी लड़ाइयाँ चल सके और हम मिलकर चल सके, हाथों डाले हाथों में हाथ हम चल सके साथ साथ. And finally, I just want to say that in addition to all that the struggle I think has meant, and I think which we need to acknowledge and tell ourselves in moments of weakness, because moments of weakness will be there in night time, in day, early in the morning. But I think we also need to tell ourselves, and I want to end by this, that the final thing that I think has been quite remarkable is that despite the conditions under which the struggle has had to be fought, despite the provocations coming from here and there and everywhere, despite the blood and gore which is being evoked all the time from the other side, apart from fighting with words, I think there is an element of grace. There is something about grace which was there in Kanhaiya's speech, and it has been there, for example, on the 2 occasions that I've heard Shaila speak. And that grace, I mention this because grace, like the quality of mercy, mercy is not the same thing as forgiveness, as forgetting. I think we need to remember, but we also need to remember that there is something called mercy, there is something called forgiveness. And like the quality of mercy and forgiveness, I think grace is something that has gone missing in the politics and the practice of the politics of contemporary politics. And when I'm saying grace, what do I mean? I end with Mario Savio, because the same man who gave the speech I began with was also the man, before giving the speech, when he gets up he wants to stand up on a police patrol car, what does he do? He does not simply get on to the police patrol car. Instinctively, reflexively, he takes off his shoes. He takes off his shoes so that even the police car which he's going to be protesting against, even that police car does not get scratched. So he says what he wants to say, but he also says it with words, but also with grace. And I think somewhere what has happened at JNU is also a reflection that you have the power to be able to fight back with words, and you can do it with grace. And we all need to do it with words and with grace. Thank you, all of you.